What's up, guys? This is Mr. Second Passport, and today we're gonna see what you should do when you first move to a new country. It's not what you think, it's not buying. Okay, I don't suggest buying a place when you first move to a new country like Ecuador or anywhere in South America or Asia or wherever. A lot of countries won't even let foreigners buy, particularly in Asia or the Middle East. But you definitely shouldn't buy when you first move abroad, but you shouldn't rent either. I think it's just as easy to get scammed by some dick as it is, renting long term as it is to buy. So what should you do? Well, first, why should you not buy? The main reason in these countries in South America and like Ecuador is the lack of liquidity. If you buy, now this is a channel based on a lot of real estate deals, but I don't think you should buy where you live. I'm not an advocate of that. I think you should buy where you rent. In other words, you buy for an investment, and I personally rent where I live, and I've done that almost my whole life. But I do own properties that I make an income from, right? So that's what I believe. If you buy in a place like Ecuador, okay, you could have big problems, like these guys, that you don't know when you buy. You just see the price, you like the area or whatever, and bam, you have these barking dogs all around. There's nothing you can do about it. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of what can happen to you if you buy. And when you buy, you get stuck. You get absolutely stuck. I know a few different people who would like to leave Ecuador, but they can't because they have a property here that just doesn't sell. Especially the higher price properties, especially the properties that you know that are not in high expat areas, high concentration of expat areas. Those can be particularly difficult to sell, especially if you need to sell to Ecuadorians. So I mean, it's just not very smart to come to a new country and buy, especially sight unseen or right when you're brand new. You're probably not going to get the best price, of a local or even yourself if you lived here for a few years and really saw what the prices were. So I don't recommend buying when you first move to a new country, right? That should be pretty obvious. What about renting? Well, let me tell you a little story about when I moved to the Dominican Republic. Before I moved to Ecuador, I lived there for about a year. It was awesome, and the beaches do look like this, particularly on the Samana Peninsula, which was my favorite. That looks like the beach of Rincon right there. Just absolutely spectacular. But when I rented, right, I didn't know. I was a backpacker with no money, and I moved to Santo Domingo, the capital of the Dominican Republic, sight unseen, and I rented this place I found on Craigslist, right? And I paid the whole month up front plus a deposit. But what I didn't know is, right, the house was decent, but it was on the wrong side of the river. And you don't know these things when you've never been to a place. I was on the wrong side of the river here in Santo Domingo. I was over here, and pretty much all this area is super ghetto. And then on this other side here, you have the nicer upper scale places and the colonial area, which I ended up living after that. But my area kind of looked like this, right? It kind of looked like this, with these combis coming around, just full of people. And I looked very different, if you know what I mean. Like I really stood out like a sore thumb. And that would make anyone new to an area maybe a little uneasy. But what you had to do is totally different system. But there were these little alleyways that go way deep into the ghetto, and there are these guys on motorbikes that you had to hire and pay like $1, and they'd drive you in if you didn't feel like walking it. And and what's weird and a little scary about a place like the Dominican is every male in society seems to be carrying a gun. They have a permit. It's a little card you get that seems to be super easy, and they carry a gun and they just tuck it right in their waist, and almost everyone has a gun. It's a little bit scary, right? When you come from the U.S., where it's a little bit more orderly, but everyone has guns, or living in Ecuador, which I had done a little bit before I moved here, where guns are illegal, and China as well, where I also spent some time. So I wasn't really used to that many guns. Uh, and one time I was sitting in my house in the middle of the day, and this guy was just speeding around the street, this car, just around and around the corner, around the block, just zooming around, and I didn't know what the hell he was doing. Like, what the hell is this guy doing? And then he started shooting guns in the air. I thought maybe it was a drive-by. He was waiting for somebody. I didn't know what the heck was going on. Sitting in my house in this ghetto in the Dominican Republic, brand new to the country, not that great at the language yet, on a budget, so I didn't have that many options. I couldn't just pick up and go to a hotel right then and there, like if you had more money. So I was pretty broke at the time. So anyway, I asked my landlord, because the landlord lived in the same house as me, when he got home, like, what the hell was that? What was this guy doing, just driving around the block, speeding around in circles, going around and around the block, shooting a gun in the air? It scared the shit out of me. And he said, oh, some dude probably got signed, to a baseball team, a professional baseball team. And I didn't know that's how they celebrate that, obviously. Usually they rent a car, like a convertible in the hood. Maybe they get a honey or two and they hop in this car and drive around and around and maybe shoot a gun in the air. And that's how they let the whole block know that they just got signed to maybe a pro baseball team. Anyway, I was scared out of my mind and kind of uncomfortable. Even as a young backpacker type, I was still uncomfortable, flexible in life, I thought, but still uncomfortable. So I moved across the river to another place. But that's just why you shouldn't really rent long term either. I lasted a few days in there, and I paid for the whole month, and I lost a deposit as well. That's the big reason why you shouldn't rent long term is, again, you lose a little flexibility. You'll end up sometimes with dickhead landlords, right, who will not help you out. They already got your money, and they won't put screens on the windows. They won't do this and that. Little things that would keep you happy, they're just not responsive, right? Real dicks sometimes, especially in countries like the Dominican or Ecuador. It's just the way it goes. Take it from someone who's rented a lot. Also, they'll take your deposits. Sometimes in Ecuador, they try to get 2 months up front, and then they won't give it back. If after a few weeks, for whatever reason, you want to leave, they won't give it back. It's really hard to get it out of these people once you give it to them. And a lot of these long-term places, rentals, sure, they are cheap. The problem is these places rent to you without furniture, right? And you got to furnish these places. And if you try to resell that furniture, good luck. You're lucky to get 30% of what you just paid, even if it was just a week ago you bought it. You know what I mean? Trying to resell furniture in Ecuador, I've done it. It's totally possible, but super difficult. You're dealing with a totally different type of people that buy used furniture in these countries, and they will negotiate you to the absolute ground. Trust me, I've done it. All right, so this is the reason why you shouldn't buy or rent. Forget both of those options when you first move abroad. So what should you do, right? You got to do something. You got to live somewhere. Hotel room? No, I know, no hotel rooms. Not a good idea because, you don't have a kitchen. You need space. I get it. So what should you do? What gives you a kitchen, gives you space, and that is Airbnb. You should Airbnb it. Just something that's really surged in the last few months, in the last few years. But this gives you the positives of a long-term rental, but you're still lighter on your feet. And it negates the negatives of the longer-term rental. Like, a lot of these Airbnbs won't even require you pay a deposit. I know the Airbnb listings I have, I don't require the people pay a deposit because if I did, I wouldn't get any bookings because most other people don't require a deposit, right? So find listings that don't require a deposit. Some do maybe, but most don't in Airbnb. And you get that nice space, that nice apartment or house that you were looking for, not just a little hotel room. And you get that kitchen, as I totally understand. Most people prefer to cook and eat inside. It's just way healthier than eating out all the time. But the big positive about the Airbnb is the landlord reviews. You can review the landlord and they know that. And you can pick listings with good solid reviews from the get-go, so that you can go in with knowing a little bit better that who you're dealing with than if you just went cold turkey and rented a long-term place just for the low monthly price, right? And then, you also get a furnished place and everything's already hooked up for you, even to the Wi-Fi, maybe even cable TV. It's all hooked up already, which is super convenient when you first arrive to a place, a location. And it's usually all included in one price. So Airbnbs might seem more expensive than long-term rentals because they are, but everything's included in the Airbnb price. And in the long-term rental, usually like in a place like Ecuador or Colombia, where I've spent some time, or the Dominican, a lot of times those other services are not included. You got to pay those separate. So just something to keep in mind. And problems you may run into with the quality of a listing when you arrive. Maybe it's not what you expected for whatever reason, due to the location or some other disturbance or a neighbor. You can contact Airbnb. You don't even have to contact the owner of the property, because I had a friend call me once, and he knows I do some business on Airbnb, and he said, hey, these I reserved wrong, and I want my money back, but the owner says I can't get my money back. What can I do? I said, just contact Airbnb. Airbnb is a great mediary. They're really good. They do actually reply. They don't answer the phone that well, but they really reply if you email them, like within one day. So just go to Airbnb if you have any problems. And if it's a legit problem, you take pictures, you send it to them, and they will usually accommodate the tenant. All right? Hint, hint, secret, secret, spoiler alert. They almost always side with the tenant over the owner. I know, because I'm an Airbnb owner myself, and it's happened to me, right? And, just Airbnb it, you can stay light on your feet. Get places that are furnished, so you don't have to worry about buying furniture. You have more power over the landlords because they know that you can review them. Everything's included, and you can often negotiate long stay discounts. And once you're in the property, you don't have to keep booking it over and over again on a site like Airbnb. Once you have contact directly with the person, you can say, hey, let's make a deal for a longer stay if you really like the place, right? So this is what I think any new expat should do in any country you go to where maybe your job isn't fixing a place up for you. I would definitely go the Airbnb short-term rental route and maybe give a few places a try before you maybe negotiate with the owner for a longer stay in one of them. And there you go. That's the best way by far to move abroad. I'm Mr. Second Passport. Don't forget to subscribe below on the red button and click the bell next to it to be notified of more videos just like this as soon as they become available.